All right, welcome back, modelers. This is a tutorial on Thingiverse Edits on 3D modeling project. We're going to go to Thingiverse and find a model. We're going to download that STL file. We're going to use Tinkercad to be able to put that STL file into the project. We're going to import the STL into that project. We're going to edit the model a little bit. We're going to export it as an STL, and we'll create a video screencast file. Let's get right into it. First thing that you're going to want to do is go to Thingiverse.com. Thingiverse.com is an area where you can basically download files that have already been made. People make 3D files, and then from there they can share them with the world by putting them in Thingiverse here. So basically you can go up here to where it says Search Thingiverse and search for any number of objects. I'm going to look for an 8-sided die. All right, so I can see that there's a whole bunch of different files of potential things that I could create here. I want an 8-sided die here, so I'm going to click on this model here. You can see that there's a 8-sided die that's available. Once you click on the project file here, or the model that's listed, it should load up and show you an example of what this die looks like. The thingy view is what they call it. I'm sure it's taking a while to reload. I'm going to try reloading it here. There we go. So I can see the file here. If I scroll down a little bit, you'll see something that says Thing Files right here. So I'm going to click on where it says Thing Files. And you're going to see that these are the files that you can download to be able to use this. So I'm going to click on the STL file right here to be able to download that file. I just want this STL file right here. So I click on this STL file. You should see that down here on the bottom left of your screen, that name should pop up. This is where your downloads are. And I've downloaded this d8.stl into my downloads folder. All right, now I'm going to open up Tinkercad, and I'm going to import this file into Tinkercad. So let's open up a new file here, or a new window. I'm going to tinkercad.com. I've already signed in, which is what you see here. I'm going to create a new design. After you sign in, you'll just go up here to Create New Design. From here, you'll have a new design space. And I'm going to want to start by renaming my project. So up here on the top left, I want to click on this name and change what that is. I'm going to call this D8 Die Data. There we go. I'm going to scroll out here. And now I'm going to import that model that I just downloaded from Thingiverse into Tinkercad. So over here on the top right, you're going to want to go to where it says Import. And I'm going to click on Import. I'm going to choose a file. I'm going to go into my downloads folder, and it should be something up here towards the top. It should be something that you just downloaded. If you can't find it, you can change the way that you're viewing your object, your files right here. My suggestion is you turn it to Details. After you change it to Details, you can sort by any one of these columns up here. So if I wanted to sort by date up here, if I clicked on that, it's going to make everything in order of date. So I can see that I made it to where it sorted the oldest first up on top. If I click it again, it'll sort the newest first. So I can see that the last thing that I did should be up here on the top, right after my folders, right here. All right, so I'm going to open that file. I'm going to press Import, and now I can see that model is being put into my design space. And here it is. It's super tiny. So sometimes your models will be super big. Sometimes they'll be super tiny. In this case, it's super tiny. I can see it's there. So if I click on this object and I hold down Shift, as I scale out, you can see that I will scale it out proportionally. So I'm just going to grab the top of this object. The way I can grab the top of the object is by clicking on this little white box on the top middle of the object, and I can scale it out. So I'm just going to scale this up a little bit. There we go. All right, so now my job is to edit this somehow. So I want to add something extra to this model. I have this model from Thingiverse. I've got 10 points just for putting it in here. What I need to do now is I need to edit this somehow. So I'm going to put, I'm just going to put some letters on this. That's what I'm going to try to do. Now, when you're working on objects like this, the best thing to do is to use the work plane, which is over here in the top right. If you click on where it says work plane, you can choose which plane to work off of. You'll notice that this die has a lot of different sides, and it'd be really hard for me to put objects in here and try to make them oriented to where they would actually fit properly. So what I want to do is I want to put the word data underneath the number 4 right here. And the easiest way to do that is to use my work plane, which is clicking on this work plane right here, and then click on the side of the model that you want to work on. So I'm going to work right off of this work plane right here. If I want to put text down, I can just drag a text box on here, and I'm going to make it say data instead of text. So up here where it says the text name or the properties for this object, I'm going to go over here to where it says JHS or text right here and change that to JHS. And now I can scale this to be the size I want it to be. I'll make it a little bit smaller. There we go. That works right there. Might make it a little bit smaller, and I'll bring it down a little bit. I want to be able to put this partially into my model. There we go. And I might turn it a little bit too. Now, the problem with this is, as a die, this is going to roll, but this is going to be sticking out of the die, so it's going to mess up what I have going here. What I want to do is I want to make this into a whole and group it with the original object, so that way it won't end up looking worse. So let me scale this back just a little bit. There we go. We'll move this down a little bit. There we go. I'm going to turn this into a whole, as you see here. If you cannot quite get your grid to line up, that is, I can't quite get this to go right where I want it to, you can change your grid snap settings, which are down here in the bottom right. So if you go down here to snap grid, you can change this to a smaller number, and that'll mean that you can move around your objects with more precision. So now I can see that I can actually move this where I want it to go. I'm going to place it about there. I'll turn this into a whole. By clicking up here on the shape properties, I'll change this to whole. So now this object is going to cut out of any object that it is grouped with. I'm going to select the other object, that is this die right here. I'm going to hold down Shift and select that object as well. Now I have both of them selected. And I can click up here on Group to be able to put the two things together. When I do that, it's going to cut the JHS whole shape out of the other shape that I've selected. So you can see that I actually cut it out and I put it right here. Very nice. Let's say I wanted to do the same thing but on a different area here. So let's say this number 1 down here. If I wanted to change and put data on that section, I would click up here on my work plane, then click again on the plane that I want to work off of, and now I can add my shape on there. So I'm going to draw a little happy face with the scribble tool. So I'm going to drag the scribble tool on. I'll draw a happy face. And then I'm going to press done. And I can see that that shape has been added to the design space. I'm going to shift it down a little bit to make it smaller. I'll move it in the right position. And you can see that basically you're able to add any kind of objects that you want to an existing model. So you don't have to start from scratch when you work on these models. You can find somebody else's design and reverse engineer it or add to it, change it somehow. There's a lot of fun stuff that you can do with these models. Let me rotate it 90 degrees here. Maybe rotate it the other way here. There we go. So I'm just going to move that happy face, put it as a decal there. I might turn it into a hole as well. Push it into the space a little bit. Now if I group these together, you can see that I basically cut this hole out of this object. Why do you ask? There are cameras in here. There's a lot of expensive equipment here. All right, so as you see here, I have taken this hole here, this whole object. I'm going to grab all these together, add them together, and I'm going to group them together And now we can see that it's been cut out of the object. So I've got this happy face cut out of this side. I've got JHS cut out of this side. Basically, you're able to edit a model that has already been made and edit it to where you can have what you want on it. All right, after I'm all done with this, let's see how we can turn this in. So I should have added 5 shapes to this. This is not completed yet. I'm just showing an example of what can be done. You would go up here to where it says Export, and then click on Export. And you're gonna export the entire design. So make sure that you don't just use the selected shape. You want to export everything in the design, and you want to export it as an STL file, which is right here. When you do that, it's going to save your STL file down here. You're going to turn that in to get some credit, but you also need to record your actual project here in the design space. So I'm going to click on the work plane, and I'm going to reset my work plane just by clicking on the ground over here in this area. Now I have everything reset. I'm no longer working off of any particular work plane here. Now that I've done that, I'm going to record this by pressing the Windows key and G. This is going to open up the Windows game bar, which allows me to record what I'm doing. I press the record button, and now you can see up here in the top right that I'm recording. All you got to do is click on your model, and then click over here on the far left side. You're going to see something that says Fit View to Selected Shapes. So if I click on that, it's going to change my view to make sure that this is what is the center of my view here. Once I do that, then I can right-click, and I can just look around my model. You want to show off your model from all different sides so you can show what you've done, the kind of work you've done. If you did something in particular that was really interesting, you can zoom on that and look at it. It's a good idea to be able to show off your work. Now that I'm all done with this and I've shown my model off, you just press the stop button up in the top right over here where the record function is. Press the stop button, and now it's recorded your video file to your videos folder and your captures folder. So let's take a look at where that is. I'm going to click on my file folder down here. I'm going to open that up. Let's take a look at the different folders that we have. If we go over here to the left-hand side, you're going to see something that says This PC. If you go in This PC and scroll down, you'll see something called Videos. If you go in your Videos folder, you're going to find a folder called Captures. Inside that folder, Captures, you're going to find that it has saved the video that you just created, and it should be dated. It should say the name of the thing that you were working on, and it will also have the date. So that you're going to turn in this video file and the STL file for full credit. Make sure that you rename your project file up here on the top left. Make sure you rename that because it's going to give you a random name, and we don't want to have that. We want to make it to where you can tell what each one of your models is called. So make sure you change this name before you turn it in. That should be it. I hope you create some great models. You find something that you'd enjoy working on and perhaps even printing out. Good luck, and I can't wait to see what you come up with next.